What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward presented by Raymond. Empower your purpose with Raymond. Thank you so much for tuning in to this special edition Word on Woodward, where we're going to go live to Comerica Park, where Ron Gardenhire yesterday, when he addressed the media, talked about how excited he was for the action that we're all going to see today at Comerica Park. On top of being live from Comerica, Jason Beck is also going to join us, the MLB.com writer for the Detroit Tigers. He will join us later in the show. But without further ado, let's bring in Dan Dickerson, who is live at Comerica, where I'm hearing Michael Fulmer just took the mound.
Yes, indeed, Daniela. And I have to say, it's exciting. They took the field. It's like, all right, here we go. I know it's an inter-squad game, but that is the first pitch that you just saw right there, a lazy fly ball to right off the bat of Jacoby Jones. And so Ron Gardenhire did what he said he wanted to do, keep units together. So you got Team Cabrera today, and you've got Team, let's call it Camera Maven today. And Team Maven is at the plate right now. So it's the probable opening day lineup, or certainly the opening day infield in the field right now. And that's Candelario at third, Goodrum at short, Jonathan Scope at second, and C.J. Cron at first. And then you've got the starting probable outfield, at least right now, on Team Maven, and that will be Jones, Maven, and Kristen Stewart in left field with Jones in center and Maven in right. So you're getting those units playing together. But I think all eyes right now, guys, are on that man, Michael Fulmer. Michael Fulmer coming back from Tommy John, but really it's not just the Tommy John, as we talked about yesterday. Remember the knee surgery that he had the fall before. We talked about how everybody is raving how he looks physically. You can see it right there. He has slimmed down. He looks terrific. It's a whole new commitment, I think, to the physical conditioning part of this. And he has been working very hard. He was in Lakeland almost the entire time during the shutdown, getting that arm back from Tommy John. And I think he's one of the most intriguing players in camp for the simple fact that if he's healthy and he's figured out things in his delivery with that knee, the arm is coming back, but it's going to be quite an arm to add to either the rotation or the bullpen. So that's Harold Castro, who just doubled down the right field line off of Michael Fulmer. And Harold Castro is going to be one of those guys who's probably going to make, most of the guys we're seeing here today have a really good shot at, you would think, making that final opening day roster. Not all, because it's probably going to be about 14 position players, and I would say 16 pitchers is probably a pretty good guess for how it's going to break down. But you've got a lot of guys who are going to be in that opening day lineup in Cincinnati on the field here today.
Dan, let me ask you this. We talked about the battle at the third base position for the Tigers a lot, and we even talked about how it's going to be hard to prove yourself in this short amount of time. Are these inter-squad games going to be the key for whoever that third baseman might be?
That's a great question. And yes, there's really how else do you judge? Certainly batting practice isn't going to do it. How else do you judge who is going to be, that starting third baseman? And these games will go a long way toward determining, I think, that starting. It's going to be about the bats probably more than anything else. I think the numbers say Candelario's a better third baseman. I think the consensus, just talking to coaches, they actually like Dawel Lugo a little better defensively. But I don't think there's any question it's going to be the bat. If one guy shows the bat is alive, and believe me, they'll be tracking every at-bat, not just hits, but what kind of swings did they have, that will determine. And how else do you do it other than these inter-squad games? And that's the thing that I think fans have to also remember. This is a level below exhibition games, right? It's more informal. So exhibition games are certainly a level below regular season games in terms of the feel and the pressure. But these would be below exhibition games because there's an informality to it. They're not going to be 9-inning games because you don't have enough position players, and you're not going to throw these guys out there for 9 innings at a time to start, or even very often during these next few weeks. But this is the one way you have to judge guys. And I think this will be really good for the players because you're playing in front of an empty stadium. Think about it. They don't do that in spring training. There's always fans in the stands. Even for that, game against Florida Southern or Southeastern University. So this actually is going to be really good for them, getting used to the idea of playing in front of nobody in the stands and understanding how that's going to feel I think Matthew Boyd's handled this very well. What's your motivation to play? Is it for the fans? Well, of course you're playing for the fans, but when there are no fans, what's your motivation? It's for your teammates. It's for you to perform at the highest level possible. So I think this is going to be actually very good to have a number of these games, maybe as many as 10, 12. We start 2 weeks from today, and there will be some exhibition games. Watching them turn that. Go ahead.
I'm just kind of curious. I mean, obviously they're in separate dugouts. Who's managing which team? Is Gardy with the home team, the Cabrera team, and is Maben's team being managed by whomever, or is it just luck of the draw? Maybe.
I'm guessing it's Tom Prince, the Toledo manager, managing Team Maben. And again, I just called the Team Maben. Nobody else did. Just, give him he deserves a little bit of credit. The seasoned veteran. And I'm noticing right now, seems like we've already maybe had a change in the lineup. Yeah, we've already had a change in the lineup. So, no, that's right. Lugo is scheduled to come up.
Yeah, Lugo is batting. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. Lugo and Candelario are going at it against each other, competing. They're both playing third today for their respective teams, and they're both batting in the 5-hole. So, talk about head-on competition. Another thing that I'm curious about, and I know you touched upon Michael Fulmer, but how surprised are you that he's getting the start, or is this exactly what he needs? He needs to be out there, and let's see where his arm really is at.
I think so. And again, you have to fans realize there are 12 pitchers total listed today. I'm sorry, 7 pitchers listed total today. The 2 starters, Ronnie Garcia, the Rule 5 pick, and then there's 5 others listed as probably in the bullpen. That's a small number. There are 30 total in camp, and a lot of the other guys either got work today. They're lining up. What day is it for someone to throw? This is probably Michael Fulmer's day, but I don't think it's insignificant either that he's getting a chance to show what he has in game 1 of the Intrasquad schedule. I think that is significant. I think they want to see, as Ron Gardenhire said, it's not just about the arm, and that's a really wicked slider right there. It's also about can he field his position.
Dan, before we get to the next question, I just want everyone to know, I'm sure as you've seen, we've got some social media comments popping up on our feed today. So if you want your comment to be shared, make sure you're commenting on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you are watching today. So go ahead and comment along with us. We're excited that you're watching. We're really happy to have you. And Dan, the other question I have for you, we see Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green are on the bench players for Team Cabrera.
Not insignificant as well.
Yeah, are we going to see them get some action today?
I don't think there's any question. I mean, you got 5 on the bench for Team Cabrera. And again, I'm guessing this is a 5-inning game today, maybe 6, but probably 4 or 5. And you've got 2 on the bench for Team Maben. You don't put Torkelson and Green as bench guys without getting them probably a couple of innings of play. I'd really be surprised if they didn't. And again, there's some significance to that. They want to give these kids as much exposure to what life might be like in the major leagues when they get there. And remember, they're only a year apart. Even though one was drafted as a college player, third-year college player, and one was drafted as a high schooler, Green's 19 and Torkelson is 20. But yeah, I think it's kind of neat that they're both there, and I would assume that both are probably going to get 2 innings in the field and perhaps an at-bat or 2. Probably 1 at-bat, because I don't think this game's going to go more than 5. But I think that's pretty neat. Dylan Dingler there as well.
Right. Double D, again, it looks like some guys are wearing masks. I mean, what kind of social distancing are we having? I know the Tigers have been very good about taking precautions. Are they wearing masks in the dugout? Is anybody wearing a mask out on the field? I know, obviously, hitting they're not, but how is that playing out thus far?
Yeah, nobody on the field. I did see some players taking infield yesterday. A couple had masks on, none in the field, and they're not expected to during games, just so people know. I think for catchers and umpires, it is something they are thinking about. I talked with Adam Hammery, the UP native, who is a major league umpire the other day, and he was talking about they want them to wear masks, and under their mask, because, again, that close contact with the catcher all game. And think about that on a hot July day. They don't get much of a break to take that off. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things you have to consider. Michael Fulmer went out to the mound, did not have his rosin bag. You're supposed to take your own rosin bag out to the mound. And again, these are things they're getting used to. And you can see him yelling to Rick Anderson, "Hey, my rosin bag, where is it? It's over by, So they have to take their own rosin bag out to the mound. There it is right there. It's not going to be shared by anybody. In terms of how the game's going to look, it's not really going to look to fans much different than you would normally see. Balls are going to be taken out of play more frequently when we get to regular season games. But you're not going to have restrictions on, diving back to the bag and some other things that you might think about. I do think umpires are probably going to wear masks underneath their mask, but catchers won't, and I don't think many players in the field. You certainly can, but as you guys know, I'm sure, heck, just walking up the steps here earlier today with a mask on, I was like, whoo!
Hey, well,
with a mask on is hard.
Let me ask you something. Are they on the honor system here? Who's calling balls and strikes today? Is there any pitch count?
Oh, yeah, there will be. There will be. I haven't been paying attention at all. But I'm sure it's the honor system, and you got good guys behind the plate. You've got Griner behind the plate, and you've got Romine behind the plate, and they'll just have to trust that they're calling accurate balls and strikes. This is Ronnie Garcia on the mound, by the way. He's a Rule 5 pick that the Tigers got in the offseason. He didn't do a ton to impress. That's pretty impressive right there. A wicked slider down and away to get a pretty good hitter. So didn't do a ton to impress in spring, but a Rule 5 pick almost always will get a chance to stick with the team. Otherwise, if they don't make the opening day roster, you have to offer him back to the team you took him from. And Ronnie Garcia almost certainly will be on the opening day roster. But they took him with the first overall pick for a reason from the Yankee system. And Ronnie Garcia is somebody to keep an eye on. And, you talk about don't read too much into things, but I think it's significant that he gets the start today for the visitors, Team Maven, if you will. But Garcia, I think, again, we didn't see it a lot in spring, but this is a guy that I think is definitely worth keeping an eye on. He's young. He's just 22 years old, and the upside is big. That's Cabrera at the plate. And that is the end of one inning of play in the Intrasquad.
Dan, is Cabrera DHing for both teams? Because he was just on, that was Team Maven that was up. He's wearing a Team Cabrera uniform. And let me ask you another question.
Yes.
Yeah, so is he the DH for both, or did he just decide,
no,
I don't like my team, because Garcia...
No. He was batting for his own team there, Art. You missed a half an inning there.
Yeah, they changed Art.
But Fulmer, wait, I've got in my original lineup, I've got Cabrera batting third for the team that Michael Fulmer is pitching for. That's not right?
That is correct.
That is right.
That is correct. And they're wearing the white, and the visitors are wearing the orange.
So
now Fulmer's back on the mound. You missed a half an inning there, Art.
I don't think I missed a... I think I missed a half. Trust me, I had to move firewood 40 minutes before this show started, so and it's really hot out there. With that being said, okay, I don't know what I missed, but I'm pretty sure something. I don't know. Maybe I lost the feed, which wouldn't be the first time. Let me ask you this, Double D. Why aren't the Tigers wearing light-colored uniforms? Because it's like 1,000 degrees on that field, and they're both in their navy blues. I mean, wouldn't one team should be wearing their home uniform, the Old English D in white, and the other one wearing the road uniform, which is gray? I mean, there's going to be a lot of. I'd hate to be the guy who's going to have to wash those uniforms because they're going to be sweaty and smelly.
I think it would have been that way either way, because I can tell you it's hot down there. I sat down there for a little while today. These are spring training uniforms, and I think that's why they're wearing the dark blue home and away. This is what they were during spring training. So that's why.
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe in these uncertain times, maybe we can go a little lighter color for the remaining games if it's going to be 115 out on the field there, because I mean they look good. I'll tell you what. In all seriousness, Michael Fulmer looks like a different person out there on the mound.
Doesn't
I mean,
he?
he really looks chiseled and in shape, and I think this is a very important game. It's great to have baseball back. And I know Double D, we've touched on it already, but to have Fulmer out there pitching and start this game for Team Cabrera, I think is really, really important, and goes to show you exactly what dimension he can add if he's healthy to which is already a pretty darn good starting pitching staff.
Right, and I mean, you think of the rotation as we've talked about: Boyd, Turnbull, Norris, Zimmerman, and Nova is the projected starting five. There hasn't been a Daniel Norris sighting since the early days of camp, so we can only speculate, and I'm not going to speculate, but he hasn't been in camp. So there is that. There could be an opening in the rotation. I mean, just face it. I mean, that's pitchers get injured. Michael Fulmer is going to be a big part of the picture when they need that sixth pitcher or seventh pitcher. Tyler Alexander is probably on the short list as well, and that's before we even start talking about the Mize Manning Scoobles of the world. Michael Fulmer is, I think, going to show, if he shows that he can field his position, that he's moving well, because it's, again, not just about the arm, but about the knee and being able to do all those things that go along with pitching. Michael Fulmer is going to be, I think, a really important piece on this team. I think he'll get some starts. I think he'll probably start in the bullpen in long relief, but as he builds up, why not? This would be about the time that I think most people thought he'd be coming back. He'd probably be, this is a regular season, a normal season. He'd probably be getting some rehab starts in the minor leagues and trying to work back toward an August return. Well, season's going to start just before August, and if he's built up and he's feeling good and the arm is strong, he'll play a major role on this team, and that's really exciting. It really is. If this team is going to be better, and they're obviously going to be better than a 47-win team last year. In other words, is this a team that can hang around in a 60-game season for a playoff spot? And just so fans know, in a 60-game season, the average number of wins for a fifth-place team, and 5 teams make the playoffs the last few years, is around 33 wins. So 33 wins, you've got a shot. If you're in that range, you've got a shot to make the postseason this year. Can the Tigers get there? Well, it might be a long shot, but if you're around 500, again, you're right in the thick of things. For the Tigers to get there, to me, it's going to be about, I think they have a pretty darn good rotation. And Michael Fulmer added to that only makes it better. Because I think Matthew Boyd's about to take a step up. Spencer Turnbull absolutely is going to do that.
Yeah,
and Michael Fulmer could be a big piece. Could be a big piece. And Daniel Norris, I just hope that, his absence doesn't mean anything serious. Daniel Norris finished last year very strong. So
Dan,
it's going to be pitching and defense that gets them to contention status in September.
Let me ask you this. This is looking a little further ahead, but yesterday when Gardy was talking to the media, he expressed that he thinks it's going to be really important during the 2 exhibition games that they're going to play in Cincinnati for pitchers to kind of get a feel for what it's going to be like to pitch against another team with no fans. How important do you think those games will be, even though it's just 2 exhibition games and they're playing these inter-squad games? But in your mind, how important will they be?
I think they'll be a little bit more important than, say, the games that we have, the inter-squad games that they are playing. But I wouldn't put a ton of importance on it, just because I think these inter-squad games are going to do a lot for these guys to get ready. Michael Fulmer coming off, getting some handshakes or at least some high fives with gloves on as he comes off the field. I think he's fired up about that. But to answer your question, Danielle, I don't think a ton of importance. I think Gardy's right to get ready for the first game in front of no fans in Cincinnati. That will maybe be the importance of it. But I think these inter-squad games, they're in uniform. They're in a ballpark with no fans. It's a major league ballpark. It's not a spring training site. I think these games will give them a feel for what it's going to be like and get them used to it. And, you can say all you want about, well, they should just get over it, be competitors. Well, fans are a big part of this game, as we all know. So it will be a period of adjustment. Many have talked honestly about that. I mean, what the heck? You're a closer. You come in, the crowd's going crazy. You feed off of that. So it will be different. But I think any of us who played sports are, if you play sports and you love playing sports and you're a competitor, you don't care if they're, we play, let's say I play tennis. I don't care if there's fans, anybody watching. No one ever is watching if I'm playing. I get fired up. I get very competitive. And I think that's what the players are going to figure out these next couple of weeks. Very strange, different than anything they've seen. As Joey Menez said, minor leagues, there are some pretty small crowds some nights. But it will be different. But I think these games will help them get ready.
Before we get back to the action, you guys, I do want to let you know that you can sign up your kids for some Tigers summer camps this summer. They are happening, and each camp is 1 week long. Each camp includes 30 hours of professional instruction, full Tigers uniform for each camper, tickets to a future Tigers game, and a camp Zoom meeting with a Tigers player, coach, or alum. The Tigers promise to put on a first-class camp that will cooperate in full compliance with the state of Michigan COVID-19 summer camp guidelines. You can register your Tiger at tigers.com/camps. So guys, we've got the little league camps going on, big league summer camp going on too. What are we seeing out there right now, Dan?
I want to set the infield just for fans watching, because again, it's kind of just good to review who's in camp and who might they see during the season this year. So the infield for Team Maven, as we're calling them, is Lugo at third, as we mentioned. Willie Castro at short, I think, is a really important young man to keep an eye on. I think he is going to be an exciting, for all the talk about the prospects on the way from this draft and, Riley Green from last year's draft. Willie Castro, I think, is one of the most exciting position players that the Tigers have right now, along with Isaac Paredes. He's at shortstop. Harold Castro, who's a very valuable utility man who will be on the opening day roster almost surely, is at second base. And then Jordy Mercer is at first. And, to go back to spring training, it's worth reviewing how Jordy Mercer made himself from shortstop only into a multi-positional player by the end of last year. Remember, he was injured a good part of the year, came back and showed that he could play anywhere on the infield. That's a valuable guy to have, to play all four positions and play them well. You feel comfortable with him wherever he is out in the field. So Jordy Mercer's at first today. These are all guys who are they're right in the mix. Willie Castro might be on the bubble, but again, he's an exciting player. They've worked really hard with him on his defense. That was the knock last fall. He is a shortstop. Ramon Santiago went and worked with him in the offseason. He's very impressed with the tool set. It wasn't anything, it's not like he lacks the tools to play short. This kid's athletic. He just needed to tighten up some of his mechanics. He did. He worked very hard. I'm very high on Willie Castro, as you can tell, at short. And then the outfield is Kristen Stewart in left, Jacoby Jones in center, Cameron Maben in right. I want to just touch on Jacoby Jones just for a minute, because I think people heard a lot last year. His defensive numbers were down, and they were. He went from being one of the best center fielders in the game by defensive runs saved to one of the worst. Very few people believed that Jacoby Jones had gone from best to worst in 1 year. There were some complicated